Kia ora and welcome back to Andy Oakley Investigates, the podcast where we dig into the stories that matter to everyday Kiwis. No spin, just straight talk and hard evidence. I'm Andy Oakley, author of Cannons Creek to Waitangi and Once We Were One. Today we're tackling something that's ripping at the fabric of New Zealand society. Two ideologies that until recently didn't exist as the social realities we're told they are today. One is the modern idea of Māori as a unified race with separate rights, and the other is the transgender movement, the belief that your feelings can override your biology and demand everyone else play along. Both are social constructs. Both are pumped into our kids through schools, and both are causing real social upheaval, division, resentment, and a loss of that simple Kiwi unity where we were once all just New Zealanders. So stick around for the next 30 minutes or so. You might not agree with everything, but you'll walk away with the facts you won't hear in the mainstream. Let's investigate. First, a quick personal story that kicked this all off for me. I grew up in Cannons Creek in the 1960s and 70s. It was one of New Zealand's lowest socio-economic areas. I grew up alongside Māori and Pacifica. Calling someone a Māori or a Pākehā back then was rare. We were all just friends and family sharing our lives and community, and I valued that immensely. However, since the late 1970s and 80s, I noticed an ideology forming around what a Māori person was. And because I valued my memories of a united community growing up, and that community was being ignored, in the early 2010s, I submitted a Treaty of Waitangi claim to the Waitangi Tribunal. I said I was Māori. I gave them 22 different definitions of how I was a Māori. Cultural knowledge, self-identification, you name it. They engaged, but then said, sorry, for us to hear your claim, you have to be Māori, and in our minds, you're not. I don't know where the Waitangi Tribunal got that mandate from, but anyway, they said I wasn't. So I immediately wrote back, you've ignored my 22 definitions. As the experts, can you please give me one definition of what a Māori actually is so I can prove I am one? And they couldn't, not after multiple reminders. That's silence. That's the smoking gun I was looking for. The Waitangi Tribunal state they are a permanent commission of inquiry to investigate claims by Māori alleging that the Crown breached the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. Yet there are no principles in the Treaty of Waitangi, and the tribunal has no idea what a Māori even is. Being Māori today isn't a tangible, biological, or even historical fact you can pin down. It's an ideology, something you think you are. And that's exactly what I exposed in my 2014 book, which was published by Tross Publishing. Now let's connect the dots to the transgender push. It's the same pattern. It's the same playbook. So let's rewind to pre-1840 New Zealand. There was no such thing as Māori as a single people. The islands were settled by humans who travelled through the region of Polynesia. Multiple waves, different tribes, iwi and hapu living separately. And no one knows which of these tribes arrived first. Tribalism ruled, chiefs made the laws, they were highly suspicious of other tribes, and that led to wars, slavery, infanticide, and yes, cannibalism. No pan-tribal identity, no noun Māori in any dialect meaning us, the indigenous race. The word Māori was a ranking word that simply meant normal or ordinary, just as we use those words today. Europeans called them Indians, natives, or even New Zealanders at first. And it wasn't until after the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840 that the word Māori slowly became their collective label. The current dictionary of the Māori language states it was about 1850 when the noun Māori began to be used. The treaty itself was signed tribe by tribe, over 500 chiefs separately. No unified Māori nation. Fast forward, the Treaty of Waitangi Act and its principles turned this into law. Suddenly, government policy treats Māori as a separate race, deserving co-governance, special health authorities, resource rights, and education carve-outs. But here's the science. The Human Genome Project proved humans can't be neatly categorized into biological races. We're all mixed. Everyone on Earth. What happens to the Maori race when a child has one Maori ancestor and 3 European ones? Or none but identifies culturally? Well, it collapses. It's not real. It's a modern invention. Yet our education system drills the opposite into kids from day one. The Education and Training Act 2020 requires schools to give effect to Te Tiriti o Waitangi. And that means treaty principles, te reo, mataranga Māori, woven into every subject. Local curriculum must reflect tikanga and te ao Māori, and kids learn that Māori are tangata whenua with inherent separate rights, while the rest of us are what? Guests in our own country? Public worry is through the roof. Co-governance debates, 3 waters, health authorities, conservation boards sparked accusations of separatism and even apartheid. Polls showed huge opposition. People feel the unity we built as one nation is being undone. And the activism, it's relentless. Protests, tribunal claims, demands for more race-based policy, it's upsetting society because it pits New Zealander against New Zealander. Now, flip the coin to the transgender ideology. Just like the unified Māori label, this didn't exist as a widespread social or medical reality until the mid-20th century. Early sexologists like Magnus Hirschfeld in Germany experimented with cross-dressing and early surgeries in 1910s to 30s. Harry Benjamin in the US pushed hormones in surgery in the 1950s, and Christine Jorgensen's 1952 sex change made headlines. But it was rare, a handful of adult cases, mostly males with long-standing dysphoria. The term transgender as an umbrella only took off in the 1990s. Fast forward to the 2010s explosion. Youth referrals to gender clinics skyrocketed in the UK from a couple of hundred a year to thousands, mostly adolescent girls. In the US and here in New Zealand, surveys showed teen identification rates jumping to 1 to 2% or higher in some school groups. Social media, peer clusters, and rapid-onset gender dysphoria. That's the pattern Lisa Littman identified in 2018. Match exactly what we see. What changed? Not biology, society. The ideology says gender is a feeling, separate from your sexed body. Self-identify and the world must affirm it. Pronouns, bathroom sports, and even medical interventions for kids. In New Zealand, our schools are ground zero. The Ministry of Education's 2020 Relationship and Sexuality Education Guidelines pushed gender identity into the classrooms from year 1. Preferred names, pronouns, access to opposite sex facilities, often without telling parents. Groups like Inside Out and Rainbow Youth provide the resources. Kids learn that gender refers to how you identify. Male, female, both, neither. Biology, optional. The result? social contagion. Confused kids, especially those with autism, anxiety, or trauma, they get fast-tracked. Parents sidelined. Girls lose fair sports and safe spaces. And society fractures. Debates over women's rights, free speech, and even the Cass Review in the UK slamming the evidence for youth transitions as weak. Here in New Zealand, the backlash is growing. Parents and groups like Penny Marie's Let's Kids Be Kids, Resist Gender Education, and the Ethos Alliance are pushing back with evidence-based policies. Recent government moves are trying to dial back the explicit gender ideology in the curriculum, but the damage, the normalisation, is already baked in. So what do these two have in common? Well, everything that matters. Both are modern social constructs. Māori as a unified race didn't exist before European contact and the treaty. Transgender identity as a widespread youth phenomenon didn't exist before social media and affirmative care models. Both rely on belief, not biology. You can't define Māori consistently, as the tribunal proved to me. And you can't define woman under self-ID without erasing sex-based reality. The largest scientific experiment ever, the Human Genome Project, backs it. No races, and sex is binary in humans for reproduction. Both are shoved into schools as unquestionable truth. Treaty education creates the different and deserving separate rights mindset. Gender lessons create the your feelings define reality mindset. Kids absorb it young, normalise before they can think critically. Both fuel activism and demand separatism and special treatment. Māori co-governance bypasses one person, one vote. Trans policies create a separate facilities, sports categories, and even medical pathways based on feelings. And both are causing massive social upheaval right here in New Zealand. Public trust is eroding, and Kiwis are sick of division, whether it's race-based policy or erasing women's rights. Mental health issues in youth skyrocket with both. Families fracture when schools keep secrets from parents, and society splits into us versus them tribes. We're heading back towards tribalism. Look at the protests, the election backlash, the online wars. It's not progress. It's ideology over evidence, and it's hurting the very kids it claims to help. Look, I'm not saying we ignore history or genuine distress. I understand why some people want to identify by their tribe, and some people do suffer gender dysphoria. But turning feelings into legal and educational mandates without debate is dangerous. My 2013 tribunal letters are public in my book, Cannons Creek to Waitangi. Read them. The experts couldn't define Māori. I wrote reminder letters to them stating, I'm still waiting for a definition of what a Māori is so I can prove I was one. And I got nothing. That tells you everything. The same silence happens when you ask for the evidence base behind rushing kids towards puberty blockers. We were once one people building one nation. The treaty made us British subjects with equal rights. Biology makes us male or female. Let's get back to that. Evidence, not emotion. And that's the investigation. Two ideologies, one playbook. Invent the construct, teach it to the kids, and demand society rearrange itself. The cost, division, confusion, and lost unity in New Zealand. If this resonated, grab my book, Cannons Creek to Waitangi, or the follow-up, Once We Were One. Share this episode. Talk to your kids' school. Demand evidence, not activism. Thanks for listening to Andy Oakley Investigates. Drop a review, subscribe, and I'll see you next time, where we keep asking the questions others won't. Kia kaha, stay curious, and let's keep New Zealand one nation.